Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog. We're going to be playing over at Capital Casino. This week is a really interesting one because I made some really good plays on I thought, and I made some really bad ones. So we're going to get to see both of them, the good ones and the bad ones, and also one of the most interesting spots I have been in, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Anyway, sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. Well, we're going to start off our session with one limper in front of us, and we got ace, king. Well, that's worth a raise. So I put in a little raise, and it gets folded back around to the player in the big blind. He's not happy with that sizing. He decides to increase it just a little bit. I haven't really played too much with this player, and the only thing I really know about him is that he has about 900 in front of him, and he's raising from the big blind. So I figured he has something good. Sometimes I 4-bet this, but since I'm in position, I decided just to flat, and we'll see a flop that comes queen, 10, 9, all spades. So I got 2 overs and a straight flush draw, and he leads right on out. And of course, he can have me beat. He can have, he can have pocket aces with the ace of spades, or maybe ace queen with the ace of spades, and I could be in a world of hurt. Turn card comes is the Queen of Hearts. Not my favorite card in the world because now all those pocket 10s, pocket 9s are filled up. And he doesn't seem to be afraid of the flush. He does end up betting for 75. I can't throw this away, but I don't think I can raise him either. So I just put in the call. River card comes is a good one, I think. It's a 7 of spades. That makes me the second nut flush. Of course, I still lose to the ace of spades and all those full houses that are possible out there. Well, for a moment, it looked like he was going to bet, and then he decided to check it. So in my book, this either means he's trying to trap me for all my chips by doing a little check raise, or he has something that he doesn't really want to be calling any kind of bet with a 4 flush on there. I figured the only hand I'm giving up equity with, or something that he would call me with that I have beat, is a jack of spades. So unless he has specifically jack, I don't think I'm getting any value from betting. So I decided to check it back. So I just check it back, and he turns over 2 black jacks. Lost out on a little money there. A little while later, I find myself with Queen Jack in the big blind, and it's a limp pot. I just go ahead and limp along. See a flop that comes out 10-7 deuce with 2 clubs. So I got 2 overcards and a flush draw. Being in the blinds, I just decided to check, see what my opponents would do. It gets checked to the player at the end of the table. He takes a little stab at it for $15. Seems like a fair price to me. I'm just going to put in the call and see what happens on the turn. Now the first player that limped in decides he's going to check raise, and he makes it $50. Seems a little fishy to me. Now he could have something like pocket deuces or pocket 7s. I guess those would limp in. Pocket 10s probably would raise. Maybe he has something like ace 10, king 10, a big 10 with a decent sized kicker, maybe even an overpair. I don't know. Some people like to limp re-raise with their big pairs. The other player at the end table calls. Of course, I'm going to put in the call, 2 overs and a flush draw. Turn card comes as an ace of spades. I check again. I don't think my opponent would actually like that card unless he flopped a set or has exactly ace 10 in his hand. When I check to him, he bets for $60. It just feels like he's not really happy to see that, and he's kind of wanting to deny some equity to someone with a hand similar to mine, maybe a straight draw or a flush draw. The other opponent thinks for a while before he lets it go, and that's on to me. I think calling is fine, but I really think since that is a good scare card, I could have easily been calling with, say, an ace-high flush draw, maybe I flop 2 pair or a set. I want to be aggressive. I put the pressure on. I check raise, put them all in. He has about 200 behind. So if he's going to call off with anything of non-premium, I think he's going to probably end up folding. And he sticks it in. So it looks like I'm going to need some help. River card comes is an 8 of hearts, complete blank. I told him I missed, show my queen jack, and he shows pocket jacks. So excellent call by my opponent. Not sure if he was reading my mail or whether he just decided to make a stand on this particular hand, but that's a tough call with that board. So congrats to him. Well, this next hand, a player opens for a very weak raise to $9. I got ace-9 suited on the button. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet this to 45. Get called by the player in the big blind. Kind of interesting. The other player folds out, and we see a flop that comes 7-4-4 with one club. Not a bad flop for my raising range. So when it's checked to me, I'm going to go ahead and put out a small bet here for $25. Guy hums and haws for a little bit before putting in the call. I think I'm probably good. But just in case, when the king of diamonds comes and he quickly checks, I think it's unlikely that he has a king. So I'm going to put a bet in for $60. If I get called, I'm just going to just wave the white flag, but he quickly folds. I'm under the gun and I raise with Jack 10 suited. $15. I get a caller from a player that just sat down. He's an old buddy of mine who plays a very wild and reckless style. But when it gets right down to it, he's not as reckless and wild as you might think. He puts in the call, everyone else folds out, and we head off to a flop, just the two of us. Hoping to flop something good. Not exactly great, but it's ace, queen, 4 with one spade. So I got a gutter, and I got an initiative. I lead for $15. He puts in a quick call, and we're going to go see a turn card, which is the 6 of spades. Well, now I got a straight draw and a flush draw. I don't think he has a very strong ace if he has one. So I size up just a little bit to $40, just put a little extra pressure on those maybe second pair kind of hands like queens. He does show 8s as he folds. All right, buckle up for this one. I got 10-9 suited on the button. The player opens for a raise to 30. I get 2 callers for the 30. I call from the button, and we're going to go 4 ways to this flop with 124 in the center. Flop comes out 10-9-7 with the 7 of clubs. Not a bad flop for 10-9. The original raiser bets out for $50. My initial read is that he has something like an overpair, jacks, queens, maybe kings, or maybe he has something like queen jack or king jack with a double gutter. It just seems like I have him exactly where I want him, with a hand that might be a little bit overvaluing, and I can probably make some money. Now the player to his left raises to $140. This is my friend who is an action player. He likes to make moves, do crazy stuff, and sometimes put in some really crazy raises. But as I said, a lot of people underestimate him because he kind of knows what he's doing. It's just his style is way out there. The next player does end up folding, and of course it comes to me, and I just don't know what to make of this. My initial reaction is that he probably knows that other player is representing an overpair, and he could be making this move with lots of hands, like 2 pair, maybe a set of 7s, or hopefully not the dreaded Jack 8 or 6-8 for the straight. Or he could be just making a move, period, and have maybe something like a pocket jacks himself, where he thinks his overpair is good and that he's trying to isolate all those draws. Well, I figure I got 3 options. Option A, well, I could just fold because it's quite possible that he could have flopped a straight. And if he did, I am not going to be getting away from it. You know, the action he puts in. If a blank comes on the turn, I'm just going to have to pay him off and all the money's going to go in. And I could be losing. Or I can just flat and let the other players come in behind, and he might have the pocket jacks or a straight draw that might continue. So I decided on a third option, and that's just to jam it all in. And my thinking behind all this, even though it's a crazy, crazy jam, I admit it, is that if I'm behind the player who made 140, I'm going to be calling him off anyway, right? So turn card comes as a blank. He's going to bet big, maybe a pot size bet, whatever. I'm going to be all in. And I'm going to get shown the goods if he has it. And if he doesn't, then he's going to like shut down. Say if he had just pocket jacks or a pair in a straight draw or something like that. The other player, I didn't want him to outdraw me either. So I decided just to plug my nose, stick it all in, get a fold from the other player. And then if I'm ahead of the player that made it 140, of course, I'm going to win. And if I'm behind, I got about 20% equity if he flopped like a straight or a set of sevens. Not the best odds in the world, but I hate the idea of folding, and I definitely hate the idea of calling. And of course, he shows me the Jack 8. The turn was a blank 3 of spades. All the money would have went in anyway. River is the ace, and I get scooped. Of course, I've done a lot of self-reflection about this hand, and I figured either one of my other two choices would have been a better one. Here I'm getting the money in. I'm only going to get called by something better. It's true that I am isolating a player who does not have to have the nuts when he makes his play, and he just happened to have the nuts, of course. Folding is an option, believe it or not, just because when you're up against someone with an image like his, he's going to get fully paid off on his big hands, and you're going to be just guessing. But I think calling's probably best. You might be behind, and as it turns out, I was, of course. And having the other player who has maybe a weaker chance of winning put in some dead money may give me the better pot odds to continue. I still would have got felted, but maybe I would have felt better about the way I played it. Well, I add an additional 500. I'm in for 1,500 now. That's a lot of money. Anyway, I'm in the big blind with Jack 7 suited. I get basically a free peek. Someone raised to 10, and everyone called, so I call also. So we go 6 ways to this flop, and it comes Jack 7-4, all diamonds. It's great that it's Jack 7, but it's bad that it's all diamonds. It does get checked around, and the turn card comes as a 3 of spades. It's a pretty much a blank. I guess 5-6 gets there. I decided to bet out for $30, trying to price out anyone with, say, a pair and a flush draw, or maybe just a bare flush draw. A solid player I know puts in a very quick call. Everybody else folds out. I get the feeling that he flopped the nuts against me, so when the turn is a 9 of spades, I just check it over to him, and he doesn't take long before betting out for $75. He's someone I know, and I know how he plays, which is pretty well. And we did have a little chit-chat, and after our little chit-chat, I'm just thinking that I don't think I'm ever good here. I mean, seriously, I don't think I'm ever good here. And after flopping top 2 on the previous hand and getting into a similar situation, even though this is a lot less than the other hand, I just decided I'm just going to go ahead and throw it in the muck and take a break. This was the last hand I played at this table. I did switch over to a different table where I won my very first hand when I sat down. I didn't even have my camera set up for it, but at least I won a pot. Didn't do very well that day, but there's always another day. Hey, before we get into the second half, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Gemini Credit Card. If you're anything like me and think Bitcoin is the future, this is an easy way to stack some sats in your account. You get $50 for signing up in Bitcoin, and then it gives you, instead of cash back or frequent flyer miles, it gives you Bitcoin directly into an account. So if that sounds good to you, check out the link in my description, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, day 1 was pretty ugly. Let's see if we can make day 2 something better. Start off with a pair of kings in the low jack. It's folded to me. I opened for 15. Everybody folds except for the big blind. He has about a $600 stack in front of him, and we're going to head off to a flop with $34 in. Flop comes out 997. Well, not a bad flop. As long as he doesn't have a 9, I'm in good shape. Of course, that is kind of in his calling range, I imagine. Being in the blinds, a lot of medium-sized cards there. I bet 15. He puts in a quick call, and we see the 8 of spades on the turn. Makes a lot of straights, makes a lot of 2 pair. He leads real small for 15. Now, I think this is a cheap way for him to get a draw. But I also think that he will continue if I just call. So I just flat, hoping he's going to bluff the river. The river card is not a good one. It's a deuce of spades. So it was somehow he picked up a backdoor flush draw. He got there. Now he leads for 45. Well, the original plan was just to catch him bluffing if he had a bluff. Don't think I can be putting in any kind of raise since the obvious draw got there. So after some thought, I just stick it in. He says he has queen high, so I can beat queen high. And we win our first pot of the day. I'm under the gun and I find 2 red 10s. That's definitely worth putting in a raise. I make it $15. Player on my direct left puts in the call. Player on the far end of the table also puts in the call. And it's folded back around to the big blind, who has been squeezing a little bit higher frequency than he should. So when he decides to make it $60, I'm thinking my range is still way ahead of his. And I think the only thing right to do here is to go ahead and put in another little raise. Sizing, I kind of want him to call because I seem to be making these kind of plays with small pocket pairs, some ragged aces, some like king, queen type of hands. So I make it 160, trying to get the other players out, get them to fold whatever equity they might have. Comes back around to the player in the big blind, and to no surprise whatsoever, he puts in a quick call. So just the two of us going to see a flop with $351 in the center. Well, the flop comes out not the greatest in the world for my hand. When it comes ace, jack, 3 with 2 hearts, I do have a heart, so that's good. My opponent checks over to me. I'm just going to continue as though I have an ace in my hand. I pick a sizing that I would normally bet in this kind of situation. If he has a pocket pair, I think he's going to let it go. I imagine a lot of hands like king, queen, or king 10 might fold also. He does let it go, and we win another one. Well, player under the gun opens for $10 and gets a caller. I think this is probably too small of a raise to signify any kind of real strength. I'm going to go ahead and take the initiative, make it $50. It's folded back around to him, and he decides to put in the call. The other player folds out, so we go heads up with 114 in. And it comes ace, jack, 4 with 2 clubs. He checks it over. I'm just going to make a small c-bet here, just trying to price out any kind of non-pair type of hands. He could have a flush draw. I'm not blocking any clubs. And he puts in a quick call. Turn card is an 8 of diamonds, brings in the second flush draw, which I'm not blocking, and he checks again. Now, I've seen him check top pair many times, so I'm just going to be cautious. I check it back, and we get a blank 3 hearts on the end. He checks again. I could probably steal this one, but I thought maybe king, queen is better than any of his missed flush draws, and he has 5s. Well, I'm really upset with myself for not continuing the story on the turn. Yeah, I could have easily won this $164 pot with a small bet. Well, I'm in the big blind with pocket 3s. The player in the small blind raised to 15. He has a pretty deep stack. I got a pocket pair. I'm going to put in the call, and so does the player who limped in. We go 3 ways to a flop. It's a little bit of an overkill when it comes 6-6-3 rainbow. Now the small blind checks. I thought maybe I could lead, but I decided just to check this because I think he would be aggressive if a blank comes on the turn. It does get checked around, and we see a 9 of diamonds. Now my opponent in the small blind decides to make a little stab for $15. Of course, I think raising here is a little bit overplaying my hand, and I think he has too much. So I decided to call, see if maybe he has a flush draw and makes it on the river. Unfortunately, he misses his flush draw when it comes another 3. So we make quads. I think he has absolutely nothing, but I do feel he's going to be stabbing at it. So I'm just hoping he stabs at a larger sizing. Well, the sizing he figures out would be ideal. It would be $40. Of course, I have to raise. The question is how much? So I go for a small raise and maybe he'll play back at me. And I go, that would look too obvious, I felt. So I decided to go for a little bit of a bigger sizing. I decided to make it $150. Now, of course, this is so underbluffed, right? For those of you who are not familiar with the term underbluff, basically what it means is that the guy is never bluffing here. I am never bluffing here. I have to have the goods. And just about every good player knows that this spot is so underbluffed. Even the bad ones knows, just to get out of the way. So if this happens to you, just fold. All right, strap in for this one. This is a bomb pot. It's 6 ways, so there's $90 in the center. And we're going to see a flop, and everyone's going to have a very wide range. Flop comes out King 9-6 with the 9-6 of clubs. It's checked around to the player in the hijack, who is one of the best players in town, if not the best. I would say that he's better than me. I hate to admit that when someone's better than me, but I know what I'm outclassed. In fact, when I first started learning how to play No Limit Hold'em, I used to watch this player play and was always amazed at his style and his aptitude for the game. Anyway, he decides to bet out for $60, 2/3 size pot bet. Pretty good size bet. I got ace king with the king of clubs. The other player folds out, and I put in a call for the $60, and everyone else folds out. So everyone says you can't put somebody on a range when you're playing in a bomb pot. I think you can, and this one, I'll just tell you what my thinking was at this moment. I have the king of clubs, so he cannot have top pair and a flush draw. By his sizing of bet, I figured he either has some sort of flush draw or perhaps 2 pair or a set. Turn card comes as the 3 of hearts. I figured if he has a flush draw, he might not bet as large as he did before, but he goes for 2/3 pot again for $160. I'm putting him on lots of 2-pair combos and, of course, possible set of 9s or a set of 6s. Really don't think he has a set of kings. But I have an idea that if I make a scare card on the river like an 8 of clubs, I might be able to steal it from him. All right, we get the Dream River card. Of course, I was also believing that if I caught an ace, that my top 2 pair might have been good. But if I catch anything else, I think I'm just going to end up folding this. But since it became 8 of clubs, this is a perfect spot for me now. I got position. The obvious draw gets there. He doesn't have the king of clubs in his hand because I have it in mind. And he's going to check. I'm going to jam. And he's going to be in a very, very tough spot. Of course, when you're facing a good player, sometimes they put a little wrinkle in things. And now he decides to lead for $325. Of course, this is a total disaster for me, him betting $325 into me, and I have just under $500 left in front of me. This means that if I shove all in, it's going to be like $170 more. I would never do this with a recreational player. Never, never, never. But since he is one of the best players in town, I am absolutely certain that he knows this is the most underbluffed situation ever in poker. A large bet into a player who only has a little bit left, do a little Hollywood, and then I just shove it all in. I mean, this is never a bluff, right? Just like the previous hand, it's never a bluff. He doesn't think very long before mucking his hand, and we get away with stealing this one in a spot where it's never going to be a bluff. Well, almost never. Well, I do feel a little bit guilty about making that move on someone I respect so highly. And now he's going to know about it, of course, because he takes a peek at the vlog now and then. And I'm sure he's going to be a little bit surprised to see what he folded to. Anyway, for the week, we ended up booking a $150 win, which is not bad considering I just kind of punted off that $750 on that one hand with the 10-9 of clubs. I think I would have lost money no matter how I played that unless I somehow found a fold on the flop. But I really didn't like the way I played it. I think flat calling there and bringing the other player in is probably the correct choice. And then make a decision on the turn whenever the turn card comes. Since the turn was a blank, I think I would have been stuck there paying them off anyway. But the action players, they get action. And when they have a big hand, they get big pots. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. And until next week, good luck at tables, and we'll see you back here soon.